You're listening to Secure Freedom Radio. Freedom Radio.
Now more from Frank Gaffney.
This is actually Erick Staklebeck sitting in for the great Frank Gaffney, my good friend. I'm honored to be sitting in for Frank today here on Secure Freedom Radio. And I'm also honored to be joined by my next guest, my good friend, Rudy Atala. Rudy is the CEO of White Mountain Research. It's a company dedicated to understanding and mitigating complex global threats to human security. Rudy also recently retired, back in September actually, from the Pentagon after a 21-year career in the U.S. Air Force. He was the Pentagon's Director of Counterterrorism for Africa and the Morocco-Tunisia country director in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. They don't come any more qualified than Rudy. Rudy, welcome to Secure Freedom Radio.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Love being on the air.
Great to always have you and your expertise, Rudy. Now, Rudy, I was telling the audience before you came on what expertise you have, on-the-ground expertise in Africa. I want to talk to you about North Africa. Al-Qaeda has a pretty potent branch there called Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. Tell us a bit about Al-Qaeda's operations in North Africa. Do you think North Africa may be kind of an emerging safe haven, a new trouble spot for Al-Qaeda?
Well, sure, Eric. Actually, North Africa has always been a trouble spot since the GIA in the mid-'90s was going after the Algerian government. GIA became GSPC, and then in 2007 became AQIM. And in 2007, the leader of AQIM, Abdul Wadud Drukdal, swore allegiance to Al-Qaeda, and the insurgency grew from within the borders of Algeria and expanded across North Africa and into the Sahel region. Today, AQIM is branched in northern Mali. Actually, just recently, Reuters is reporting that 2 French citizens were kidnapped today in Niger and were taken into northern Mali. So within the last year, you keep seeing AQIM taking people from neighboring countries and bringing them into northern Mali.
Yeah, Rudy, that's one of their big things, right, with Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. Kidnapping. Isn't that one of kidnapping Westerners often in that region?
Sure. It's kidnapping Westerners. It's also, training individuals for suicide bombings. In 2007, they had a series of attacks. Again, the leader of AQIM swore that he would resort to suicide attacks, and that's exactly what happened. Focused not only on the Algerian government, but on foreign governments and foreigners. The interesting thing is you have a very large North African population in Europe. I'll take an example, France. France has over 1 million North Africans living within its borders. There's a very small percentage of them that do have ties and links to AQIM, and they do have European citizenship. So it puts pressure on European countries like France, like the UK, Spain, where AQIM does transit in and out and has capabilities. And so if they decide to go one step further outside of North Africa and the Sahel region, it can be critical for the European countries, and of course, U.S. They're open to go from Europe into the U.S. as well.
Right. So they're actually Al-Qaeda in North Africa. You're telling us they are potentially a direct threat to the West, to Europe and the U.S.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. As a matter of fact, if you look at the foreign fighter flow that was focused against U.S. soldiers operating in Iraq, the number one percentage came from Saudi Arabia. The second percentage came from North Africa. If you put, you get Tunisians, Moroccans, Algerians, and Libyans all fighting in the insurgency against American soldiers. So absolutely, they have homegrown, they have foreign fighters, and they're very well trained. And then for the last several years, they've developed capabilities also beyond normal scopes because they've been fighting U.S. military soldiers who have very advanced capabilities.
Right. Rudy, we only have about a minute left.
Sure.
How closely is Al-Qaeda in North Africa linked to Al-Qaeda's hierarchy back in Pakistan? Are there very solid links there, or does Al-Qaeda in North Africa operate more independently?
No, there are solid links. They do operate independently to some extent, but the links go way back to the days Mujahideen in Afghanistan.
And this is something that we're going to have to watch. I mean, it looks like we know about Pakistan, Somalia, which also we have to have you back sometime to talk about Somalia because you're one of the foremost experts on Somalia and piracy. We know about Yemen. So North Africa looks like it is one of the emerging hotspots, huh? Very briefly, yes?
Yes, absolutely. It's an emerging hotspot. We got to also watch connections between North Africa, Sahel, into East Africa and beyond.
Rudy, thank you so much for your expertise. Rudy Atala, everyone, the CEO of White Mountain Research. It's a great new organization. Rudy, thanks for being with us. Coming up, Dr. Michael Ledeen talking Iran, Syria, Hezbollah, the real axis of evil. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Secure Freedom Radio.
You're listening to Secure Freedom Radio with Frank Gaffney.